This week's paddle of the week is a little different. I've been rotating through a smaller mix, some paddles I've had for a while, others just landed, and I'm locking in final impressions before heading out next week. No episode then because I'll be in Florida for the Nerdy Tourney at Bread and Butter headquarters, where I'm teaming up with Braden from Pickleball Effect, and yes, we're going for the win. Let me know what kind of content you want to see from that event. I'm not totally sure what you'd find most interesting, and I know a lot of cameras will be rolling. Here's how this series works. Sometimes I'm revisiting paddles we've already talked about, paddles you're still asking about in Discord and in the comments. Other times I'm testing brand new builds or gear that just feels worth putting back into the rotation. Some reviews come after weeks of play, others after a few solid sessions. Either way, the goal is to give you a clear, honest look at how these paddles actually play, what works, what doesn't, and how they stack up in real games. Before we get started, big shout out to this week's sponsor, Bhodi Pickleball. If you're looking to fine-tune your paddle setup, their gear is worth checking out. Personally, I've been using their dry tack overgrips. They're not overly tacky or chalky, but they get grippier as your hands sweat, providing a consistent feel throughout play. Their tungsten tape is another standout. It's easier and safer than traditional lead tape and offers a cleaner, more precise way to adjust your paddle's balance. You can explore their full range of accessories at BhodiPickleball.com. Use code MPB at checkout to save 15%. All right, let's get into the gear. First up is the Franklin C45 Dynasty 16mm. An elongated thermoformed Gen 3 paddle that launches June 10th as part of Franklin's updated C45 lineup. It shares the same core structure and face materials as the 14mm model, but plays heavier, denser, and more muted. And while it has some strengths, for me, it hasn't replaced the 14mm as my go-to. The lineup's full review is coming soon. It's a full 16.5 inches long by 7.5 inches wide and a 5.75 inch handle with a 4.25 inch grip circumference. My test unit came in at 7.91 ounces static with a swing weight of 117.75 and a twist weight of just 6.05. For a 16mm elongated paddle, that twist weight is unusually low, and it shows. There's noticeable twisting on off-center contact, especially high on the face. And even for a thicker core, the paddle doesn't stay as stable as I'd like stock. Clean hits feel fine, but as soon as you're slightly off, reaching, or late, it starts to slip out of the hand, which makes it tougher to control in fast exchanges. Serve speed clocked in at 56.9 miles per hour, punch volleys at 36.4, and spin measured 2,245 RPM, with a firepower score of 67, which is very good. Those are respectable numbers, but out of the box, the paddle doesn't feel cohesive. The sweet spot is narrow, the response feels tight, and the face doesn't give you much help. Once I added about 4 grams of tungsten to the two corners just above the neck, the paddle settled in. The feel tightened up, the edges held their line better, and I wasn't steering it as much through contact. And that's been true for every paddle in the C45 series. They don't just improve with weight, they change. Stability goes up, feedback sharpens, and the whole frame feels more connected. The stock setup gives you the bones, but the real performance shows up when you shape it to your hand. Structurally, it's built around Franklin's dual-stage thermoforming process. After the raw T700 carbon face and polypropylene core are pressed into shape, 2 foam channels are CNC routed around the perimeter. EVA foam is injected into the inner track to add rebound. Polyurethane foam goes into the outer track for added stability and vibration dampening. Then the whole thing gets sealed in a second thermoforming pass. You end up with a stiffer frame, clean deflection, and consistent energy transfer, but also a paddle that requires tuning if you want it to feel fluid. The surface texture is a 45-degree coarse peel ply. Think that. Not overly gritty, but good enough to generate strong spin, especially if you stay compact and accelerate through the ball. Still, it's not a spin paddle, it's a structured paddle, and that structure is most noticeable on resets and counters, where you either hold your line and keep it together or it breaks down fast. Now, compared to the 14mm version, which shares the same shape and layout, the 16mm brings more mass and a little more dwell. It's steadier on blocks and more forgiving through the body, but it feels slower in hand. That extra material thickens the face and raises the overall density, which dulls pop and makes the paddle feel heavier through transitions. It doesn't accelerate as easily, and it lacks the same explosive snap when you're attacking early. Personally, the 14mm core is the one I keep coming back to. I've been able to tune it into something that plays quick, hits clean, and gives me more control in fast exchanges. The 16mm feels more compressed, more grounded, and just a little bit harder to work with, unless you're already in position. The retail price is $229, and you can use code MPB to save at checkout when these go live on June 10th. If you're thinking about grabbing one or deciding between the Dynasty 14 and 16, let me know what questions you have in the comments. Let's talk about this new foam core lineup from Honolulu Pickleball, the J2 NF Series. If you've been tracking their recent builds, you know they're actively experimenting with foam core construction. The J2 FC Plus is a good example. It's a beta model available for presale right now, not USAP approved yet, and built with a fully floating foam core. That's a lot of Fs. That paddle plays soft, plush, and surprisingly powerful, honestly not far off from a broken-in J2K Plus. It's a paddle I didn't want to put down. These new J2 NF paddles, they're nothing like that. And I don't know why, because I'm still learning about the construction of each paddle. But something is different between these lines. Same brand, same hybrid shape, same core materials, but the construction and feel are completely different. These play stiff, very stiff. Out of the box, all three models delivered a firm, connected response with almost no dwell. There's no sponginess, no trampoline effect, and definitely no free power, at least not yet. If you're expecting a foam core plushness or easygoing ride, you're going to be surprised and maybe even thrown off. And to be fair, these are first impressions that I wanted to share with you. I've only logged a couple hours on each one, so things may break in over time, but right now, the dominant trait is structure and not comfort. All three models use the same base setup, a 16mm interlaced EPP, which stands for expanded polypropylene, foam center core with a partially floating EVA foam perimeter. Honolulu calls this the NF design, short for notched foam. It's a 320-degree perimeter ring that wraps the core but leaves the paddle pivoting at the throat. That's where the core connects directly to the handle. It's designed to enhance forgiveness, stabilize off-center hits, and add dwell without sacrificing control. That's the theory, at least. In practice, the result is much more of a feedback-heavy platform. They all use Honolulu's popular J2 hybrid shape with a wide throat taper. The handle length across the line is 5.5 inches, grip size is 4.25, and the foam perimeter sits underneath the standard edge guard with a clean finish. So now let's talk through the lineup. First, the J2 NFK Kevlar face. This is the most plush of the three, but let me qualify that. It's still firm. Kevlar naturally dampens vibration, so you do get a softer, more muted feel compared to the others. Contact is connected, not disconnected, but it's not a soft paddle at all. Specs-wise, this model came in with a swing weight of 109.55, twist weight of 7, static weight of 8.03 ounces, and a balance point that feels neutral in hand. Serve speed clocked in at 54.3 miles per hour, punch volleys at 36.3, and spin at 2,307. That puts it in the 91st percentile for spin, that's elite range, and mid-pack for pop and serve speed. Firepower score is 35. It feels quick in hand battles and shines on resets and redirections. If you like a firm paddle with a bit of softness in the feel and strong spin performance, this is the one I'd be looking at. Next is the J2 NFT, the titanium PET face. This one plays the most neutral. The face is crisp and quick with a tighter rebound window and a slightly cleaner feel through contact. It doesn't dwell and it doesn't lag, it just moves the ball. Serve speed came in at 53.5 miles per hour, punch volleys at 36.8, and spin at 2,292 RPM. That's 85th percentile for spin, 57th percentile for pop, and low 11th percentile for serve speed. Firepower score is 34. This one is less about raw speed and more about consistency. You get a clean, even response that works well from the baseline to the kitchen without any surprises. If you're looking for something firmer and faster but don't mind giving up some forgiveness, the J2 NFT might work. It's crisp but also harsh. The sweet spot feels tight and anything off center drops off quick. You'll get clean contact when you hit it right, but there's not much margin when you don't. And then there's the J2 NFL. Now, this is listed with an L, but reportedly they're going to remove the L. This is a CFC layup, carbon, fiberglass, and carbon. This is the most explosive of the series. It's also the most direct. Contact feels stiff and hot. Spin clocks in at 2,270 RPM, 76th percentile. Serve speed is 55.8 miles per hour, 60th percentile. And punch volley speed is 36.5, 50th percentile. Firepower score is 55, and that's the highest of the group. This one plays fast and stiff. You need to swing with purpose. Tentative contact falls flat, but when you catch it clean, the ball jumps, quick, direct, and hotter than the other two, in my opinion. The face is firm, contact is immediate, and there's no flex or very limited flex and dwell. At least none that I can feel yet. It's a stiff, no-nonsense response that doesn't cover for lazy swings. Now, out of the three, this one gave me the hardest time on resets, but it's also the one I enjoyed playing the most. And it also gave me the biggest upside on offense. Just know the feel is unforgiving if you're late or off center. So a couple final notes. These paddles are currently pending USAP certification, and the J2 NFL will eventually be renamed simply to J2 NF. The MSRP retail is set at $195 with pre-orders opening soon and shipping expected mid to late June. Once they're live, you can use code MPB to save some money at checkout. My early take, these paddles are built for players who want structure, stiffness, and clean contact feedback. They're not chasing plushness, at least not out of the gate. Out of the gate, this is a firm, grounded line with real spin, solid pop, and a tight shape control. Now, will the feel evolve? Will they soften up? Will they get more plush? Will the sound deepen? Will the sweet spot get bigger? Only time will tell. If you've got questions about these paddles, drop them in the comments and I'll respond there. Or hop into Discord and let's talk about it there. Let's talk about the ARMA Metallic T from Holbrook, an elongated thermoform Gen 3 paddle that builds on the same dual-density core platform as the carbon-faced ARMA T, but introduces a new face material, a metallic PET weave. I can't pronounce what PET stands for, so just Google it to learn more about the material, or let's talk about it on Discord. Holbrook didn't just tweak the surface here. Oh, okay. They did, but they created a second option for players who want the same shape, structure, and internal build, but with a different feel off the face. The dimensions are the same as the Carbon T version, 16.5 inches long, 7.5 inches wide, with a 5.75 inch handle and a 4.25 inch grip. My metallic T came in at 8.1 ounces static, a swing weight of 121.1, twist weight of 6.3, and a balance point of 24.8 centimeters. That swing weight is a bit higher than I'd like. Both of the T models I've tested come in above 121 swing weight. And while that gives you good depth and plow through on drives and counters, it also makes the paddle feel a little heavy in transition and a little sluggish. You have to be on time or the paddle will drag. What makes the metallic T different is the face. Instead of carbon fiber, Holbrook used a metallic PET weave that plays more muted. The response is still firm, but the sharpness is dialed back. You don't get that same crisp feedback or loud audible sound as the Carbon T version. Contact feels more compressed, more dense, and a little more forgiving on off-center hits. That softening helps in resets and slower touch shots, but it also slightly dulls the immediacy you get from the Carbon model. For players who felt like the Carbon T was too stiff or too jarring, the metallic T smooths that out. It's easier to manage, but it also trades away some of the connection and responsiveness that makes the carbon version stand out. Performance numbers back this up. Serve speed hits 58 miles per hour, punch volleys clocked in 37.5 miles per hour, and spin came in at 2,215 RPM. It actually delivered more power than the carbon model in my tests, even though it had less pop. That means you won't get as much instant rebound on flicks or quick counters, but when you take a full swing, it moves the ball just fine. The output is real, you just have to be on time. Under the hood, the construction is identical to the rest of the ARMA line. Holbrook's dual-density core stacks 2 layers of polypropylene honeycomb vertically, a dense 8mm layer under the face and a softer 10mm layer underneath. The two are bonded with a vertical carbon fiber strip that creates a tuned balance between structure and rebound. Around that is a full perimeter foam ring, and inside the throat you've got internal weighting that helps stabilize the paddle and boost twist weight. The frame plays solid, composed, and stiffer, but still has enough shaping to keep things playable under pressure. For me personally, I prefer the carbon version. I like the crispness. I like feeling exactly where I hit the ball. The metallic tee plays more muted, and that dense contact feel just isn't what I'm looking for. But that's subjective and an opinion of one. I've had other players tell me they like the metallic tee more, and it gave them a little more margin, and that softened feel made resets easier to manage. If you're drawn to the ARMA tee's shape and structure, but you want to smooth out the feel and take the edge off contact, the metallic tee gives you that option without sacrificing power or spin. It's not soft, but it's less sharp. It's more forgiving, but not vague. You just have to decide what kind of feedback you want coming off the face. The retail price is going to be $279.99, and you can use code MPB to save 15% at checkout when it launches June 10th. If you've got questions about the ARMAs, drop a comment below or join my Discord, and let's get into those details. Paddle of the week goes to a paddle I didn't expect to like this much this quickly. It surprised me, but after just a few games with it, I didn't want to put it down. And if you've been watching Paddle of the Week, you know that doesn't happen often. This is the GRUVN MUVN-16HD, a brand new solid foam core paddle that's currently undergoing USAP testing. Once it's approved, hopefully it's approved, it'll go on sale. And based on how it plays, I wouldn't be surprised if GRUVN builds around this model going forward. GRUVN told me that these may even replace their current move-in and laser models depending on player feedback. And if this paddle is any indication, I think they're moving in the right direction. Let's talk about what makes it different. The MUVN-16HD is built around a solid EVA foam core with a raw carbon fiber face. It measures 16.125 inches long by 7.75 inches wide with a 5.5-inch handle and a 4.25-inch grip circumference. My test unit came in at 7.93 ounces static with a swing weight of 113.4 and twist weight of 6.5. So it's light, easy to maneuver, and extremely maneuverable, but it doesn't feel flimsy or unstable. It plays balanced, controlled, and surprisingly connected. I don't have power and spin numbers yet, but will soon, and I'll add them to my database at matspickleball.com. What stood out to me right away was the feel. This isn't one of those stiff, dead foam paddles that plays like a painted 2x4. It's not jarring. It doesn't feel overly harsh or hollow, but it also doesn't feel muted or overly soft. Contact is crisp, not stiff, but there is some density to that feel, so it does feel more plush, but not mushy. You get pop, you get touch, and you get control all in one frame. The paddle just feels alive. I added a short 3-inch strip of tungsten up the neck, 0.5 gram per inch, and it gave me just a little bit more control without changing the feel characteristics of the paddle. And honestly, from the first couple of points, I knew this paddle was different. Rolls were sharp, resets felt controlled, and drives were clicking, all on a night where I was rotating paddles every few games. This just worked. Of all the foam core paddles I've tested, this one, the J2 FC Plus from Honolulu Pickleball, and the True Foam Genesis from Carbon are the ones that have really stood out to me in terms of feel and playability so far. A lot of foam builds promise performance, but too many feel wooden stiff or jarring to the point of disconnect where you can't feel the ball or trust the feedback, or that feedback just feels harsh. Others go too far in the other direction, playing spongy and slow with no pop. I think the GRUVN MUVN-16HD threads that needle. It gives you that connected feel you get from really well-tuned polypropylene paddles, but with more composure, more consistency, and zero vibration. The face feel is clean and reactive. It's not as hot off the face as something like the Vatic Pro Saga 14mm or the Carbon True Foam Genesis 2, but it doesn't need to be. This plays with more margin, more forgiveness, and a more connected feel. It's also one of the most stable foam paddles I've tested. The swing weight is right in that sweet spot. Easy to swing, but not too head light. And it holds up well when the pace picks up. GRUVN says their new foam core is more durable than traditional polypropylene cores, and they're clearly targeting a different type of player here. Someone who wants performance and feel without the weird stiffness or springy unpredictability that some foam paddles bring. And while it's still very early, based on how this paddle plays preliminarily, I can see myself getting on this bandwagon. Nothing about it feels forced or over-engineered. It just feels like a well-built paddle that performs. As of the time of this recording, this paddle hasn't been approved by USAP yet, so I'll post again when it's ready for sale. But based on my early testing, I think the MUVN-16HD is or could be in the top tier of foam paddles. If you've been curious about solid core builds, but turned off by how disconnected or dull they can feel, this is one to watch. So that's a wrap for episode 13. This one ran the full spectrum, tuning the Franklin C45 Dynasty 16mm into something playable, working through the surprisingly stiff J2 NF foam lineup from Honolulu Pickleball, comparing Holbrook's ARMA metallic tee to its sharper carbon sibling, and landing on a clear standout with GRUVN's new MUVN-16HD Solid Foam build. That paddle caught me off guard in the best way, clean, responsive, and one of the few foam cores I haven't wanted to put down. Next week, there won't be a paddle of the week because I'll be down at the Nerdy Tourney in Florida, hosted by Bread and Butter Pickleball, where I'll be teaming up with Braden from Pickleball Effect and meeting up with the other content creators in this space. A great group of people I'm proud to call friends now. If there's anything you want to see while I'm down there, match breakdowns, gear setups, early paddle previews, drop a comment and let me know. And if you've got questions about anything we've covered this week, jump in the comments or join the Discord and we'll keep the conversation going there. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that it helped you in some way. And if it did, hit that like button, subscribe to stay ahead of new gear drops, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.